Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Well, hello, very good evening to you, and welcome to the last locker room the second last locker room of a busy year. I don't know what you're going to do with your Friday nights, Graham. You're definitely not going to come over to my house, by the way. No, you're welcome any time you want, but you don't know where I stay, so that's good. Welcome, as I said, to the locker room. Joined by Michael, and let's get D himself, the man that's everywhere at the moment on Indie Live Radio. Nice to see you, Graham Duffy.
Nice to see you, guys.
I feel like going to that now.
It's good to be on, like, the price is right. But it's a beautiful day in Partick, and I've got to spend 2 hours with you. What more could I ask for?
Well, I better not say that. On till 7 o'clock, and we've got a lot to get through. Actually, this is the final weekend of this show. Veronica said on Facebook, "Hi guys, thanks for watching on Facebook, and keep watching maybe till 7 o'clock, or whenever you can get bored of maybe Graham, not me." We've got a lot to get through tonight. The last weekend of the Premiership action and the playoff action as well. We're going to concentrate on the playoffs in the second part of the show, and we're going to talk about the the top six later on in the show. But anyway, let's turn the show upside down and let's talk about the bottom six, because Mr. Ross County is here. Ross is our resident Ross County fan, and he is looking forward to a nervy but exciting end to the season as well. Don't forget, you can comment on anything that we're talking about tonight, just the usual. On Facebook and Twitter, so you can comment on there as well. Graham's, I think he's had a power cut actually in this house, hopefully not. But anyway, how you doing, Ross?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me on. You said am I looking forward to the game on Sunday? Probably not. I think that's maybe a bit optimistic. I'd much rather at this point in the season, our place be, in the league, be secure. You've got your feet up, watching all the drama go on elsewhere in the league. But so be it. We're in this position now, and yeah, I am hopeful and confident. I think we can go down and get the job done on Sunday. On Wednesday, after being 2-0 down, the spirit that the boys showed to come back and lead the game. Okay, we didn't win it in the end, but even St Johnstone's late equaliser wouldn't have really done any difference to our position going into Sunday. We would have still had to go down and win at Rugby Park. But the character that the team showed to battle back, and that, I think, it's instilled a lot of confidence and hope in County fans that we can go down and do it on Sunday.
Before we get on to the game, Ross, and me and Graham actually speaks about this every week on the show. How disappointed are you or that Sky as it hasn't covered in the bottom six games or on Sunday? Because I take it you won't be going to the game, but you would want to watch it somewhere. I presume you will watch it somewhere, but you would prefer the game to be on the TV.
So we're heading down, myself, my dad, and my partner. We're heading down to it. But yeah, I totally agree. I think when obviously the announcements came out of the games, I don't think the picks were that surprising in terms of the top six, but I was quite surprised that some of the relegation battle games weren't selected. And okay, the argument could be made for, viewing numbers and, what would the interest be in those matches. But like the midweek card, I don't think there was any matches broadcast on Tuesday or Wednesday, if I'm correct in saying so.
The Rangers half game.
Sorry. So yeah. So yeah. Even on the Tuesday, for example, if that's the way they split it, maybe the top six playing on the Tuesday, bottom six on the Wednesday, and they could have had a match from each. Like I don't know. I'm actually very surprised that it's not been picked up in between times to be broadcast on Sunday, because it's just the Celtic Aberdeen match that's being broadcast tomorrow as the kind of the trophy day and that, which I understand, but yeah, it is quite a big game. It's a must win for us and a must not lose for Kilmarnock, and it's drama going down right to the final day, and I think across other leagues you would see that broadcast, but like it is what it is. It's
do you fancy making the playoffs now?
I think it's I would much rather we finish 10th, but like we're touch wood, unless there's a real kind of footballing miracle from a Dundee United point of view, we're not going to go straight down. So the playoffs is the very worst. You would probably look ahead to saying that's likely to happen. I think Partick Thistle have been very good in the playoffs. I think, there is no denying that. They've been very good going forward. They've got, Brian Graham, who scored a lot of goals up here for County as well. He's always a danger in the box. The likes of Scott Tiffany, Stephen Lawless, they're good players around him as well. I would be confident over 2 games that we've got more than enough to get past them. I think, I read a stat, I think, is it something like they've scored 13 goals in 4 matches, Partick Thistle. I think something along those lines. And, with all due respect, I think some of the defending in the playoff games have been quite poor against, in that. And look, they've still got to put the ball in the back of the net. They get into the right positions, they create chances, and they're always going to cause teams problems. But I think, up until the Hearts game, we had the 3rd best defensive record in the league. I don't know what the exact stats are now, but over the course of the season, we actually have been pretty good defensively, apart from the couple of blips against Motherwell at home earlier in the season, and then that Hearts game. We've not tended to ship a lot of goals. It's just scoring them at the other end has been the issue. But since January, that's changed, obviously, with the change of shape to the 3-5-2, getting a few more bodies up at the top end of the park, and the comeback on Wednesday kind of showed that. I think if that was the start of the season, I don't think we would have had much chance of coming from 2-0 down, but the boys did well. So yeah, I think over 2 games, I'd be confident. I think that's normal to say as the Premiership team kind of going into it. I think I would rather avoid it if it came to it. I'd rather finish 10th than put my feet up and worry about Kilmarnock going in to face either Partick Thistle or Ayr. But yeah, I'd rather finish 10th. I'll put it that way.
Would you rather have the game on Sunday against Kilmarnock at home?
Yeah, I think so. But look, it's obviously can't be that way. There's no denying that Kilmarnock have had a really good home record this season. There's only 4 teams in the league that have gone down and won there. I think Celtic have done it twice, Rangers once, Livingston once, and St Johnstone just most recently. I think the only one out with that, if you look at it, is Partick beat them on penalties in the League Cup group stages at the start of the season. So like they've made Rugby Park a fortress, and that's what you need in the league to kind of be successful. And it's kind of, help them with their away form as well, that, their away form up until the last couple of away games, really, apart from that Motherwell game right at the start of the split, it has been very, very poor. So I would rather it be at home, yes. And I think we've not won at Rugby Park. I've got it noted down here since September 2017. It was a 2-0 win, and that was Owen Coyle's first match in charge of County, if I'm remembering that correctly. So since then, we've made 7 trips to Rugby Park and drawn twice and lost 5. Now, the most recent one was obviously the 1-0 loss early in the season when Danny Armstrong scored. But the season that Kilmarnock lost in the playoffs was kind of that same feeling. It was between the 2 teams, and we went down to Rugby Park and we were 1-0 down and then 2-1 down, but we finished the game 2-2. So there's that spirit still there, and we're going to have to use that on Sunday too to come away with something. I think look, we've obviously got to go and win the game to jump above Kilmarnock, and there is no margin for error for us, whereas they can get away with a draw or win the game, and that's them safe. And I think it just depends on what your viewpoint is on it. Like, would you rather have that margin for error as a team, knowing you only need a draw, or would you rather be going in there with nothing to lose, really, to go in to win the game? And yeah, if you don't want it, okay, so be it. We know what position we're finishing in anyway. I think it's a psychological battle, that too, and it's always interesting to see how players kind of react to that.
I was actually going to ask, Ross, does it actually make it better that you do have to win the game, that you can't afford a draw, you have to go in and win? Does that make it slightly better?
I think so, and I think that's why coming out of Wednesday night, there actually wasn't that many County fans too deflated after the late equaliser. I think if that was 2 points that, would have taken us above Kilmarnock, and then all of a sudden the equaliser goes in and then we drop below them. So, for example, if we needed to go down to Rugby Park and it finished 3-2, we needed to go down to Rugby Park and just get a draw. I think that's when it would have been a little bit kind of flatter, thinking, okay, right, we've really got a job to do now. But because of Kilmarnock's 3-0 win at Tannadice, it didn't make a difference to us. It's still, because of our goal difference, as long as if we pick up a scrappy 1-0 win, we jump above them. And I think it's tricky to say, because obviously I would rather be the team in the position now, but I'd also rather a team knowing that exactly what they need to do to go out to win the game. Whereas there might be that bit of nervous energy. The longer the game goes, if County grab an early goal, or if it stays 0-0 for a long period of time, County pick up the ascendancy in the game. That's when nerves can kind of start to creep in from the home crowd. Kind of filter onto the pitch. That all these kind of factors can play a part in the match too. So. Yeah, look, we know we just need to go down and win the game. The most recent match, we beat them 3-0 up in Dingwall, and I think we'll have to take confidence from that too. And obviously our post-split form as well has been decent too. It was only a 99th minute penalty which we conceded against Motherwell, and then obviously the game on Wednesday night, the draw there too, which could have been another 3 points. And looking back to where we were pre-split after that game at Tynecastle and then the results elsewhere, we were bottom of the table by 4 points and looked like it was inevitable. And especially after the way that we lost that game, there was a few questions of where was there any kind of fight left in the players or anything like that, and they've answered every critic and question that's been thrown their way since then, especially that game down at Tannadice where they got off to the perfect start. They pegged back halfway through the first half, and United were actually in the ascendancy at that point. But then the second half, they just took the game to United and never let them get back into it. And that was a psychological boost for us, but also a big blow for United too, which is then obviously carried on to other results. But yeah, look, I am confident. I think we can go down there and do it. But if we don't, I am still confident. I think we've got enough over the 2 games in the playoff.
You've on the show on, in fact, the show that you made your debut, if you can remember that far back in the Clanford Window show, and we were talking about Ross Kent is going to be fine this season. They've got Simon Murray, and in fact, I was winding you up at the end of the show about are you going to his house, and have you got him on Facebook and social media and stuff like that? But how kind of disappointed are you as a County fan? He's not kind of featured much this half of the season.
I think he had to be very patient, because obviously the partnership that Eamon Brophy and Jordan White, struck up almost immediately was, any player that's coming into a club, they want to make an instant impact, and Simon's just had to be patient, because Eamon did the exact same just a couple of weeks prior, and he was undroppable at that point. And Simon's been great for us. Okay, he's maybe not got the number of goals that he did for Queen's Park in the championship, but his overall play has been very good. He's he has that different option up front where, if we're looking to try and stretch defense going behind, his pace, his movement is very good for that. And it's also, it's a great foil for Jordan White as well. Both Brophy and Simon have been very good at that. They've partnered him really well. And Jordan's looked a lot less isolated with a natural striker up alongside him compared to the first half of the season, where it was more like a 4-3-3 kind of thing, where we were kind of trying to stick with the wingers that had served us so well last season. That's kind of same shape, kind of playing narrow, but it was more the wingers kind of having to learn how to play with Jordan. So since Simon's come in, since Brophy's injury, he's been great. And another one that's maybe not getting much mention because he's obviously not a signing or anything like that is Alex Samuel. Alex picked up a really bad ACL injury. It was about February last year, and there was kind of a lot of talk about coming back into full fitness and things like that. I think his contract's expiring in the summer, and Malky was thinking about, right, we'll get him out on loan, give him some game time, pick up some match fitness, and then obviously see where things are in the summer. And Alex apparently played a really big role off the pitch as well, trying to keep morale high in the changing room, the good characters you want around a team, especially when we're in low moments such as fighting a relegation battle and things like that, and, celebrating other successes and not just his own too. So he kind of got his chance, and just towards the end of January, and Amalki decided to keep him in the squad. And since he's been coming back in and playing games, he's been brilliant. He's been an absolute revelation. He came on and changed the game on Wednesday night when Simon went off after about 55 or 56 minutes. He's not the biggest striker, but he battles for absolutely everything. And he gave both Liam Gordon and Andy Considine a really tough time. It's one of these strikers that will never give up a ball, and he'll just pressurize defenders into mistakes. He's strong. He's got a decent turn of pace on him too. Whereas, compared to these kind of bigger centre halves, he'll get past them. And that's what we saw. And he obviously picked up a big goal against Livingston, but he's been a big part too. So I think it'll be interesting to see how we line up on Sunday, whether Simon partners Jordan up front. We kind of stick with that same strike force that started on Wednesday night, or because Alex had such a big impact in that game and over the course of the last few games, if he gets the nod too. I think Malky just didn't start him on Wednesday night. He started down at Fir Park on Saturday, but because of his injury, he didn't want to risk him in kind of games so close back to back. But he came on, and he's playing his way into the team. It's going to be really interesting to see. We might go totally charge the Light Brigade gun ho from the start. I don't know, because when you need to win a game, it's you're kind of throwing caution to the wind a bit there. So yeah, Simon's come in and has done a lot of work off the ball, and maybe not kind of got the praise that a natural goal scorer who's getting 5, 6, 7 goals between his move in January to the end of the season would get. But he's still been very good for us.
And Graham, it's really kind of like what you would say, that a cup final before the cup final. Oh, can you hear us, Graham?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say it's a big game for Ross County on Sunday, but do you feel as though it's a cup final before the actual cup final, the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean it's massive for every team. I mean, I think United are down for me. I don't think they're going to stay up. And what does that say about Jim Goodwin? He's pretty much wrecked 2 clubs now. Aberdeen and United, well done. That takes a lot of doing. But yeah, they look like they're down. I think County, Ross has spoken about the spirit they've got, and they do have a lot of good spirit. To come back the way they did on Wednesday, I thought they were going to win it until that last minute goal. But it's a massive, massive weekend. It really is. And I think for me, I have a feeling, not just because Ross is on, I've do got a feeling that Ross Kent will go there and win. I've never been that impressed by Kilmarnock all season. Had a couple of decent results, but I've never been that impressed with them, to be honest. And I think County have got a little bit more. And I think if they are going to stay up for me, Ross County, Jordan White's been a massive part of that. He's been really, really impressive, Jordan White. And again, Jan Danda as well has been really good. I think Eamon Brophy then was important. Simon Murray, I know you're saying he hasn't had a lot of game time, but when he has come in, I think he's looked decent. But it's such a massive, massive game. And this is why I love Scottish football, because you're going to the last day and quite a few games are quite important. Obviously, the bottom of the league, you've got who's going to finish fourth in that in the top flight. So it's a massive weekend of football. But I just have the sneaky feeling that Ross Kent are going to go there and they will win. And I do kind of think that it is a difficult one, because Kilmarnock know that if they draw, they can, they're going to stay up. But can you afford to go into a game looking for a draw? I don't think you can. I think you've got to have that mindset of we need to win the game, which is what Kent are going to have, because they have to win. It's going to be very interesting. And I think, as always, as it always does, the first goal in any game is crucial. I think if Ross County score the first goal, I think they might score a couple of goals. If Kelly get it, they might just have enough to hold on. But the first goal is going to be so, so crucial.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Graham. I think Kilmarnock this season, from what I've seen in them, have been very good when they go in front. Especially at home. You know what you're getting from a Derek McInnes team, and defensively when they drop back, when they kind of need to manage a game, I think they've been very good, and I think that's what they did well against us back in, I think it was September or October time when we played them down there. I think from our point of view, obviously we showed a lot of character to fight back, but yeah, I agree. I think the first goal is obviously going to be key, because I think if we get in front, I think we've given ourselves a great opportunity, and I've not quite seen the same fight back from Kilmarnock as I have done County. And I get it, I watch County a lot more than I do Kilmarnock, but I guess even just looking at results where, you might be 1-0 down early or 2-1 down at any points, fighting back. I think back to, there was a game kind of before the World Cup break where we were playing St Mirren at home and scored early on. Great, 1-0 up, and then almost instantly were pegged back to 2-1 and St Mirren were leading into half time. And it was kind of thinking, well, what's going on here? Because we were really good in that first half. But then again, that character was shown to come back in that game. And same against United as well down there. It would have been very easy to, after the way we didn't have a poor first half. We were fine. We managed it very well, but United were certainly in the ascendancy there. So going in at halftime at 1-1, and to come out and then put on a performance in that second half, like as we did, was really impressive. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's very cliche to say the first goal's probably going to be one of the most important parts of the game, but it's so true here.
And I think it's even more important for a club like Ross County. I'm sure you're going to understand what I say, Ross, but it's important for them to stay up, not only because it brings more prestige to the football club, but as you go down, you're going to slash your budget again. In Ross County, I suppose like a team like Ross County Livingston can to a certain extent come out. They can't. Basically, Ross County they can't afford it.
I think it's always a really tough one, especially for any club that's going into it. You look at Dundee United right now, and they, as I said, barring the footballing miracle, they're destined to go down. And you look at the players that they've got on their books just now, and how many of them are going to have relegation clauses? How many of them are going to be on big wages that they'd probably want to try and shift on for next season in the Championship, but they can't. And I think the Championship is becoming such a strong league of some teams down there. Obviously, we've seen Partick in the playoffs; they've done really well. Ayr as well. Our Highland neighbours, Cali Thistle, getting to the Scottish Cup final as well. But then with likes of Airdrieonians coming up as well, Dunfermline coming up, that's then just adding even more strength into that league. So it's definitely one you want to avoid, and it has an impact not just in the football club on the playing side with likes of budgets and things like that, but it's also you look at some clubs, it's people's jobs that are on the line when it comes to things like this, and not even just that, like the local area as well, because of Dingwall's such a kind of a small area, that Premiership football is so important to the local community as well, and the likes of the local businesses around and things like that. When you're getting the either Celtic or Rangers visiting up at points in the season, Aberdeen bring good crowds, Hearts bring good crowds, Hibs as well, the kind of the big teams in the league which come up with travelling support, they then go and spend their money in the town. They'll go and, buy food at a restaurant somewhere and things like that. So all these things then have a knock-on effect because of the club going down. So yeah, we were very fortunate and did very well to bounce back up at the first time of asking as well when we went down back in 2018. So look, I would rather avoid the Championship obviously and secure Premiership football for another season. So
yeah,
Ross, I was going to ask Ross, because I genuinely don't know this, but you've obviously got Rangers and Celtic, Hearts and have Dundee United. What's the rivalry like between Ross County and Inverness? Because I always thought of these two clubs as like quite family clubs, quite local, proud clubs. Is there a massive rivalry between the two, Ross County and Inverness? Because I genuinely don't know.
It's kind of a weird one because it's so strange that I think for long periods that when players are up here and they want to stay in the area, the two main clubs are Ross County and Cali Thistle. So likes of Billy Mackay, I think is the perfect example. Billy spent a good chunk of his career initially at Cali, then got a move down south and kind of floated around a couple of other teams like Dundee United, and then came back up to Ross County. Did really well for us, and then because he enjoyed the area so much, when he was released, obviously Cali offered him a deal, and it's a no-brainer. I think it's different, obviously, because when you're down in the Central Belt, there's so many different teams in like a close proximity, whereas up here it is literally our two clubs, and then who's next at that kind of level. It's probably you have to go all the way down to Perth or along to Aberdeen for that kind of standard of football. Obviously Elgin are in the area too, but down at League Two, it's obviously not the same attraction, but. It's a weird rivalry to describe it. It's I think it's always interesting when we've grown up with our clubs in my childhood growing up, things like that, and also some of my friends who are Cali fans, that the clubs have been very successful from where they've come from. Thinking back, 30 years ago, both were in the Highland League, and now all of a sudden they've competed in the top flight. Both clubs have won, major silverware in Scottish football, and I think it's almost, it's strange, because then when you're growing up with that success, that becomes your benchmark and your expectations. Whereas, some younger fans won't remember, I remember being there when we were relegated by Gretna on the last day of the season. They won the league at Victoria Park. We were relegated down to the second division. There's people that I guess haven't lived through those tough times, or, when the club was going through tough times too. And it's the same at Cali. So it's always quite interesting. I think there's an expectation for Cali to get back up to the Premier League. And of course with the teams that are competing against, with United now coming down, and the other teams in there, could be another one from the Premiership with either ourselves or Kilmarnock or whatnot. It's so tough to kind of get back up to that standard, and the fans then are, because they're expecting that, they're then putting pressure on the club, putting pressure on the manager, wanting change, things like that. I think for our point of view, when Malky came in last season, it was always a long-term process we were spoken to about. That it was kind of a lot of restructuring behind the scenes, and making the club sustainable for the future as well, in different areas. And getting top six football in his first season was just out with anyone's expectations whatsoever at the start of that season, especially after the first 10 games. So that then going into this season, our expectations are, oh well, we can go and do it again, whereas we've probably just come back to reality a bit from where our standard probably has been this season. Or I'd rather be finishing maybe 9th, 8th, 7th, or kind of competing at that kind of level. But it's always difficult, because then both sets of fans have got those expectations, and it's just trying to manage them. Look, don't get me wrong, I never want to see Cali doing better than County, but I also when it was obviously the reported financial issues at Cali and things like that, I never wanted to see them go bust, because it's fun winding up your mates who are, rival fans and things like that. You don't want to then see that club go bust. It's part of it. It's just, it's nature. It's a good laugh. They don't want to see us do well. We don't want to see them do well. But from my point of view, I know there might be County fans that have different points of view, and Cali fans who Ross County were in that position too, they would feel differently. But, I think it's a very Highland mentality that, Highland football up here is great, and we want to keep it up here and keep it to a good standard, whereas we don't want it just to be the kind of full Central Belt kind of takeover down there.
Okay, well, I know that you've got to go, but we're going to preview the other game. That I don't know if you've got a few minutes to stay on to look at the other games tomorrow. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I saw the story before we came on air. It's reported in the Scottish Sun. Say what you want to say about the Sun, but it's been reported in the Sun that Stephen McLean is to become the new St Johnstone manager, Graham. Now, I don't know if the St Johnstone fans would be looking for a bigger name than that, or do you think they'll be happy or disappointed? I mean, no disrespect to Stephen, but it's not really been a number one, if you know what I mean. He's always been an assistant manager.
As a Liverpool fan, I'd never read a rag of a paper, and I wouldn't even believe them if they told me it was Friday today. That's just me. But yeah, I think Stephen McLean has done very well so far, to be fair. He's turned St Johnstone around. I did feel sorry for Cam Davis, and I said that previously. I think he did a really good job. To win the League Cup and the Scottish Cup was massive, and I felt sorry for when he got sacked. I understood the decision, but I felt sorry for him. But to be fair, McLean, he's managed to turn it around a little bit. Performances have improved a bit, I think. And yeah, I'm not surprised that he's probably going to get the job. I think I've heard that previously the last few weeks that he is probably going to get the job. He's managed to keep them up a massive, massive point on Wednesday night when it looked like they were going to lose the game at one point. And yeah, I'm not surprised that he's going to get it. It is a risk. any management appointment is a risk. I've said previously as well. I know we'll get to Hearts shortly, but I've heard a lot of Hearts fans want Naismith as manager. I'm still not convinced, to be honest. But I think McLean, he's clearly got the trust of the players. The players clearly like him. They trust him. They rate him highly. So it is a risk. Would St Johnstone be looking for somebody bigger? The question is, who would they get that's going to come into St Johnstone? No disrespect, there's not a massive club. Who would they get in? They don't have a massive fan base. It's very difficult to attract big names to that club, I think. So I think, listen, McLean knows the club. He's done a good job. It's clear the players are playing for him. He showed that previously. So I'm not surprised he's getting it. But again, who would they go for that would take the job, if I'm being honest?
And I suppose it's back to what we were saying, Ross, about Ross County, about the financial aspect at St Johnstone, because Graham was saying that, I mean, they've got a decent maybe home support, but apart from that, you know, and they might struggle to get a bigger name in the door at Perth.
I think, to be fair to them, as much as Wednesday was a dead rubber game for them, they brought a really good crowd through to Dingwall, and I was impressed with that, you know. And look, we played St Johnstone in Perth not long before the split, and I was really surprised at how poor they were at that point. So we were pretty comfortable throughout the whole game. There wasn't any kind of moments where I thought we were under pressure. I think they hit the post late on, but apart from that, it was really managed, and I was surprised at, because it's not what you would class as a classic St Johnstone side, you know. So that then comparing that to the team that played on Wednesday night, they were very good on Wednesday night up until I think the point where, of course, they didn't really have anything to play for, so there was that element of freedom about them. But you know, they've got players like Graham Carey was at Ross County and was fantastic for us. I mean, he's still very, very good. There was at one point he played a brilliant pass over the top and about halfway through the first half, just before Stevie May scored. I think it was like a first-time pass outside of his left foot. It's just taking the whole defence out of the game. So they've got quality players in there. And look, Stephen McLean's come in and done a really good job. He's only lost one of the matches that he's been in charge for. I think, is it 5 matches now? I think it's 1-2, drawn 2, lost 1. So look, as a manager coming in to, you know, keep a club out of a relegation battle, he's done that. He's completed the job. He's ticked that box. And, you know, comparing it to Jim Goodwin at Dundee United, that's the job he was given to kind of go in there to do. And it's not happened, you know. So, but then there's some United fans there that are still keen for Goodwin to get the job. So I guess it's that balance there of, you know, trying to manage a limited budget compared to obviously the bigger teams in the league. But when a manager comes through as a caretaker manager, comes through and ticks all the boxes and does the job that you've asked him to do, then surely he deserves the job on a permanent basis, or at least an opportunity to, you know, build his own squad and put his own stamp on it.
And as for Livingston, Graham, that like they go into this game with really nothing to play for. That the season finished about 5 weeks ago, you know. But I think that the most important thing for Livingston is back to that M word again, money.
It is, and I think you want to go to the last game of the season on a high. You know, going to the summer on the back of a victory. It's been a disappointing season, I think, for Livingston. I thought they started off really, really well. They had a really bad dip, to be honest. And again, I've said numerous times on the show, I like David Martindale. I think he does really well to live within his means. He's a really good character as well. We know Sir is off the pitch, but he does get the best out of the Livingston squad. The worry, I think, for me, and we spoke about it previously on the show as well, they're going to lose quite a few players in the summer. And how do they replace them? They're going to lose Nicky Devlin to Aberdeen. I know that Joe Newbley signed a new deal, but I think he'll leave. There'll be other players that will leave, I think. So that's going to be a big issue for him, is how does he bring players to Livingston? It's a bit like St Johnstone. They're not a massive club, so how do you sell Livingston to players? I think they have probably tailed off a little bit this season, but you want to go to the summer on a high, win your last game of the season, and then I think, and we speak about this as well, we talk about the fact that David Martindale probably should be at a bigger club. I still believe he probably could be. Obviously not Celtic or Rangers, but I think he's probably, is he Hearts his managing material? Possibly, but I think he's a really good manager. I would love to see what he could do with more money behind him, because I think he's a very, very good manager. There's no doubt about that. And I like his honesty in press conferences as well. He's always honest in what he says about games as well. He doesn't shy away from things, which I quite like. But they want to go into the season, end the season on a high. I do think it's been a disappointing season for them. You know, I think they were disappointed in the cup. They got knocked out by Inverness at home. Really poor performances. I think there were a few weeks of really bad performances and really bad results, and that kind of knocked them a little bit. I think they were hoping to finish top 6. They didn't quite manage to do that. But it's all about trying to rebuild for next season. But as I say, they're going to lose a lot of players in the summer, and it's how do they replace them?
Ross, the last game in the bottom 6 this weekend is Motherwell and Dundee United, and obviously Dundee United basically died, basically went away. What is a shame, because Dundee United's a big club, and is it a bit ironic how Dundee United went down and the neighbours from across the road has come up, so you're losing out in that Dundee derby in that season. But I wanted to speak to you about Motherwell, and you've got a better insight than me and Graham in terms of Stuart Kettlewell. When he was assistant manager and joint manager at Ross County, what was it, 2 or 3 seasons ago? Have you been surprised the way he's came in and he's turned it around at Motherwell?
I'm not surprised he's turned it around, but I'm surprised at how emphatically he's turned it around. I think is probably the point I'd make. I think Ketz was a great manager for us. He had the experience in the Championship with Stephen Ferguson at the time that, as co-managers, they got us out of the Championship after being relegated. They came in when Owen Coyle left. Okay, they didn't manage to keep the club in the league at that point, but, they went down, rebuilt, came back up, and then in that first season in the Premiership, the COVID season, that they kind of maintained the place. And okay, the season was cut short, whatever, viewpoint is on it, but they kept the club in the league. And I think it was always interesting when Stephen took a step back to be the chief executive of how Stuart was kind of going to do as kind of a manager on his own. And I'm really glad to see he's done well. He's a county legend up here, both, as a player, he was fantastic, and as a manager as well, because he's taken us back into the Premiership, won a Challenge Cup in that season as well. And no, it's been good to see. And I think I'm quite thankful that they've still technically got something to play for on Sunday as well, because of the draw against Livingston on Wednesday night. They actually have to go in and match or better Livingston's result to finish 7th. So, we're talking about United having a kind of footballing miracle. It's not like United are going to Fir Park to play a team that have got nothing to play for too. And obviously Van Veen's chasing his 30-goal kind of target in that too. So, yeah, Stuart's great. He's always going to be in the, provided us with fond memories as county fans, and yeah, I'm really glad to see it's turned around. And I think we were kind of surprised of how long he was out of a managerial job for, or a coaching job for. Obviously, he went in initially to Motherwell. I think it's an academy coach. It was at the under-21s coach. I can't remember the exact title.
It was the under-21s, the youth.
Yeah. And I actually thought he wouldn't necessarily get a Premiership job straight away, but likes of a Championship club or like a bigger League One club would have taken a gamble on him. Excuse me, likes of a Falkirk, a Dunfermline, one of these teams. And I was always quite surprised that his name was always mentioned, but it was never anything concrete, like he's the favourite for the job or, he's been shortlisted. It was quite interesting to watch that from afar. So he's been out of the game. He's obviously reassessed a lot, changed methods, maybe tinkered with things that, and learned from mistakes maybe he made at County. And he's obviously gone in, got the opportunity to go into the under-21s at Motherwell, then obviously the first team when Stevie Hamill got sacked. So he's taking the opportunity with both hands, and it's great to see.
And Graham, Dundee United, I don't know where to start on that one. A big club. I actually like Dundee United, a good club, good fan base, whether it's home or away. But it's went from bad to worse, and and back again. But can they come back from this next season?
Well, I don't think we'll hear Beautiful Sunday getting played under Tannoy ever again after this. I think they're going to struggle, to be honest. They really look a very poor side. But you look at that squad, and they've got they've got experience in there with guys like Charlie McGrew and Stephen Fletcher, but they've been awful. And on Wednesday night in a game they had to win, they were so poor. And I know that he's young. I know that he's only a young player, but that Loika, is awful. The amount of mistakes that lad he makes is horrendous. And his body language at times doesn't look great. And the one thing the United as well, see if you're going to give yourself a chance in anything, you need a good goalkeeper. And they don't have one. But there was a thing on Twitter a few days ago. The amount of mistakes that Mark Brigate has made that have led to goals, he's been a terrible signing. Jack Newman's been okay. He was all right on Wednesday, couldn't do much about the goals, but they don't have a proper goalkeeper. I'm still baffled to this day why they didn't go and sign Xander Clark when they had the chance to sign him and they didn't take it. But they just look a very poor side. I mean, I said this before we start the show. I don't know what this is going to do for Jim Goodwin now, because he went to Aberdeen, it failed, he got sacked. He's now at United with the opportunity to keep them up. He looks like he's going to fail that as well. Where is he going after this? Because I don't see him managing the Championship. So where is he going to go after this now? His stock right now has never been lower. They just look a very poor side. And, Ross talked about earlier Ross County. Ross County have spirit. United don't have any of that. When they lose the first goal, they chuck it. They look so poor. And I genuinely don't think, and again, this maybe isn't a massive thing, but for me it is. I think the fact that Callum McGrew went to that Celtic night thing was a really bad idea. And the fact it got made public he was there, a lot of United fans were not happy about that. And his form has been awful since then. It wasn't a good look for me.
No, it wasn't a good look, Ross. Obviously, I was at that event at the High Road. When was it last week? And I was actually surprised because Charlie McGrew there, and it wasn't until I was at the Dundee United press conference the day after, and they were saying that they were asking about Charlie McGrew was there. Do you think it was a good move and stuff like that? And to be honest with you, Jim Goodwin really didn't say, "Oh no, he should get a win." He basically says, well, he's an ex-Celtic player and all that. But if that was if that was Malcolm Mackay saying that, I think that you would be kind of like up in arms about it, especially when you've got a few big games to come. Okay, that they're down and out now, but at that time they had a wee bit of an outside chance.
I think it's a really, really tricky situation to like that one there, because I can totally understand why United fans were annoyed at that, but then at the same time, he's a regular bloke that's kind of got to go about his life as well, but off the pitch, I think I remember reading kind of Goodwin's quotes about it, saying that he's going there, like he's not drinking and things like that. I think rightly so, United fans would have plenty of reasons to be annoyed if he was there blazing before a couple of days before a game, things like that. But he's been invited along. It's a public event, so it doesn't look great. But a football player could go out to dinner on a Thursday night, and be sat there with a glass of water, and someone would still take issue with that. Some fans would still take issues with that. He's got to have a regular life off the pitch. Okay, the event was obviously in the spotlight, and it's not a great look, especially when your team's having a poor season and you're having a poor run of form. And I get those arguments, and it's a tricky one. I get both sides, but to me, football players are just regular blokes as well. They've got to have, they've got to be able to live their lives both off the pitch as well. And if they get invited along to something like that, then that's entirely up to them. If they want to go and they make reassurances that they're going to be sensible at it, then fine. I touched on Graham's point about Jim Goodwin there, and I think obviously this at Aberdeen it ended very, very poorly, but I think it's also got to be remembered that he was part of the team that brought likes of Miofsky and Duke and Clarkson to Aberdeen, and they've obviously played a big part in it. Of course, Robson's gone in and changed the system, obviously brought in likes of Angus MacDonald, Matty Pollock, players like that. So yeah, definitely the stock's not going to be high. I'm not saying that whatsoever, but he's definitely played his part in Aberdeen finishing third. And, going into the United job at that point, it was fresh after the game where we beat them 4-0 up here. And they looked dead and buried at that point. So to even kind of give them that momentum going on to these few games it shows they kind of got something about them. But, the cracks have shown again that we're showing under Liam Fox. And, he's not had a chance to put his own stamp on the squad to bring in players. So it's going to be interesting to see whether he's kind of offered the job permanently there or not, because obviously the task he was given was to keep them up, but he's not done a bad job by not keeping them up, if that makes sense. In those games, he puts the players out onto the pitch to carry out a system, carry out a game plan, and if they're losing games with individual mistakes, or he's not had the opportunity to go out and sign a goalkeeper, or the money's not being made available to him, he can't do anything about that. So I think it's tricky. It is really, really tricky. And I think, United are going to go down into the Championship next season. And even if their budget's cut, they're probably still going to have the biggest budget in that league. So then there is that expectation on them to bounce back. But it's how they kind of revamp their squad, the likes of the big earners. Are they going to move on? Are they going to take a pay cut? All these kind of questions are going to be asked too.
Ross, just before we let you go, we've got a comment. I'm sure you saw the comment coming up there from our number one Partick Thistle fan. I'll say that anyway because Vinny's not on tonight. Hasper Scumberley on Facebook is saying that I think Partick Thistle would prefer to have played Dundee United rather than Ross County. I suppose that leads more to my last question about when you're in the playoffs too. Obviously, Partick Thistle 3-0 up, going into the second leg against Ayr United. Who would you rather face, Thistle or United? Two difficult games, but
it is. It's not an option, but I'd rather have my feet up watching it on the telly with Kilmarnock in it. But, I honestly, I don't know. I think is the question. Obviously, Ayr have got good players amongst their squad as well. Like, Josh Mullen was up at Ross County and was fantastic for us as well. We did an interview with Josh a couple of weeks ago that's coming out in the podcast in the summer, and he's a great guy, great player, and obviously Akinyemi's won Championship Player of the Year as well. So they've got their own threat. So if they manage to pull off a miraculous comeback tonight, that then comes with its own threats too. But Partick, the way they've been going forward, they've been really fluid. The playoff games I've watched, I've been really impressed with them, the football that they're playing. So I think it's interesting because they obviously then play a different quality of player in the playoff. With it being having a decent defensive record despite our position. So it's how you nullify those threats. So, honestly, I honestly don't mind which one we play. I would probably edge towards Ayr because of the form that Partick have just been showing with their kind of attacking threat. But yeah, look, that's no disrespect to Ayr because they've got plenty of options at the top end of the park as well that can cause teams problems.
And am I right in saying, Ross, as well, that you've got home advantage on the second leg? Is that right?
I think that's correct. Yeah, the Premiership team do have home advantage. So I guess it's a case for whoever, which if it's ourselves or Kilmarnock, obviously going to Fir Hill is never easy. It's never fun for any team. So I think if you just come back up the road with a decent result and you can build on that with your home crowd. And I think, looking back to the playoff last season, St Johnstone were 2-0 up in the first leg, cruising. It looked like that playoff was dead and buried to that point. But then Cali had their own comeback in the first leg, came back to 2-2. And, it wasn't until the second half of the second leg where St Johnstone just ran away with it. So these playoffs are so tight. They just sit on a knife edge. All it takes is just a bit of momentum swing one way and it just totally changes. And, I've been very thankful that as a Ross County fan, we've never been involved with the playoffs before. So I'm hoping that this time come, next week or 5 o'clock on Sunday, I'll still be saying the same thing. I can just put my feet up and relax and watch whoever, Kilmarnock will be playing out of those two teams. But yeah, we'll wait and see.
Yeah. So once again, Ross, thanks for joining us on the show. and we'll be supporting Ross County tonight. And we're not just saying that because you're on as well. So thanks for coming on, and we'll speak to you soon here on Indie Live.
Cheers, Ross.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Ross.
You want it?
There we go. That was Rossi Boy. Rossi Boy, I don't know why I come up with that. Anyway, Ross County fan, the Ross County fan. And we're going to now go back up to the top of the league, see what we did there. We started from the bottom and work our way up. Usually, sometimes people see that you start from the bottom and work your way up. So that's what we're doing now. So as I said, we are joined by Michael Fagan at 6:10, I think, part of the media team at Ayr United. He'll be on his way to the game, so he'll be taking some time out to speak about the game tonight at Somerset Park. Ayr United against Partick Thistle. Right, okay, let's dive in to the top 6 then. And let's begin at, by the way, all the games are 12:30 tomorrow. And let's kick off with Graham's Hearts against Hibs. Another big derby, not on the TV, but anyway, I should stop going on. I feel like a broken record sometimes, but it is a big game. Because that there's a big prize at stake, 4th place at the end of the day. Graham and both of these teams are going on in good form. Rangers, Hearts pick up a decent point at Ibrox on Wednesday night, and Hibs basically battered Celtic the other night in the sunshine on Leaf on Wednesday night. Boom, boom. So, first of all, what's your thoughts about going into this game, Graham?
What a Celtic game, man. Why did they have to do that on Wednesday? What did you get up for? I genuinely don't know. I think at home our form's been decent. We've only lost to Celtic Rangers and Mirren at home. Our form's been decent at home. I do think we should win tomorrow because we're at home, but it is a derby, you never know. But yeah, I mean, there's positives and negatives, I think. And again, the big thing about it is who's going to get the job full time. Again, a lot of Hearts fans are now coming out the idea of Naismith get the job full time. I can see why. There has been a lot of positives. He has got us playing a lot more attacking football. His press conferences after the game or before the game are very, very good, I have to say. I like the way he comes across. But if I look at the other side as well, he's only got 8 points out of a possible 18. It's not a lot. So I can see the positives, but I can see the negatives as well. I still want a more experienced manager, and I've never wavered from that. But as I've said numerous times, if he gets the job, which I think he will, no matter what happens tomorrow, I'll back him 100%. But we need to win tomorrow. It's a massive, massive game. Any derby is massive. I think we have to. A draw gets us 4th. A win gets us 4th. We can't afford to lose. But the fact is that Tynecastle might help us. The crowd will be right with us. I expect us to start the game quickly and have a go at Hibs right for the start. But it's going to be a tough one. Hibs have improved. Didn't see that result coming on Wednesday. Once Maeda gets sent off, I think the game completely changes. I don't know what Scott Bain's doing for the couple of goals he loses. I don't know what he's doing for them. But yeah, it is any derby's important. I know that I listened to the radio and that after Rangers beat Celtic a few weeks ago, and a lot of talk was that it didn't matter. It didn't in terms of league points, but I think any derby is important. You don't want to lose it. And like I said to Ross there as well, you want to go into the last game of the season. You want to go into the summer on the back of a victory, especially a derby victory as well. But it's a massive, massive game, and I kind of like the fact that it means something. I mean, in terms of league points, as I said, every derby is important. But had we gone into this game already got 4th place, it might not have felt quite the same. But the fact we do have to kind of get a result here makes it slightly better. So yeah, I think I'm expecting us to win the game because we're at home and we tend to beat Hibs at home. But it will be difficult because, as you say, Hibs off the back of a very good result on Wednesday night. I don't think anybody saw that coming. So it's going to be huge. It really is going to be huge.
Yeah, so Stephen Naismith basically said what you were saying, Graham, about it's a big game. Every derby is we at home, and with that being a derby, you want to win the game. So the pressure will come on to us. Since I've been here, we've had a good run of performances, and we're going into this game on the back of a decent performance on Wednesday night. I mean, pardon the pun, Glenn, but you must take heart from that performance.
Yeah, I mean, after Nielsen got sacked, Andrew McKinley, the CEO, said in one of his press conferences, we haven't laid a glove on Rangers this season, and he was right. We hadn't picked up a point. We hadn't scored. Within a minute, Franklin's getting a goal. And again, VAR, why that got involved, I don't know, because he was never offside in the first place. But it got overturned, which is fine. And then we did play well for long parts of that game. We kept with he dropped Barry Mackay, which I quite agreed with. He brought Alan Forrest in. But he kept with that attacking threat, which I thought was actually quite good. Defensively, the goals we lost again are so poor. I know you can highlight any goal and think you could do better, but every goal we lose recently has been down to defensive mistakes. The second goal we lost is, I don't know what Toby Civic's doing for that goal. Sakala gets in, but to be fair to Hearts, against St Mirren, we're 2-0 down. We showed a lot of fighting spirit to get back and get the 2-2 draw. Same on Wednesday, we're 2-1 down. We could have chucked in the towel, but we didn't. We got back in it. Gara Nkuyo gets his first goal since coming from Newcastle. So yeah, it was a great point. But as I said on Twitter, it was a weird feeling because normally a point in Glasgow is a good result, but the fact that other results went the other way didn't really help. So yeah, but there's no doubt for me, Naismith has turned it around. He has got us playing positively. And what I like is the fact that, again, under Nielsen, when we lost a game or didn't win a game, he had a lot of excuses. Naismith doesn't do that. He's very honest. If we don't play well, he admits it. So I quite like the fact that he is very honest in his interviews. And what I like as well is the fact that every interview I've heard, before a game or after a game, he has hammered home the same point about playing attacking football, which I do like. And a lot of Hearts fans like it as well. And again, I go on Twitter. I'm in my Hearts fans WhatsApp group. A lot of Hearts fans want Naismith to get the job. I'm not quite at that stage yet. And again, he said, I know that Naismith said as well before, or today in his press conference as well before the game, he spoke about the fact he's hoping that one game, i.e. tomorrow, doesn't ruin his chance of getting the job. I don't think it will. I think he's getting the job anyway. And the reason I think that is the amount of young players who signed up to long-term deals. And the fact that we've signed Peter Haring on a new deal, we've got rid of Ross Stewart, we're getting rid of Michael Smith, which is a shame because I like him. We're getting rid of Gary Mackay-Steven, who's been awful for ages. So I think the fact that he has signed all these new young players on new deals, I think he's getting the job, if I'm being honest. I don't think it'll be like it won't be like a Neil Lennon thing where he gets the job in the shower after the game. But I think next week, at some point, I'm expecting Hearts to announce Naismith as permanent manager. As I say, I'll back it 100%, but for me, I still think it's a risk.
Do you think that if they beat Hibs tomorrow convincingly, I mean like 3-0 or 4-0, do you think that can I like put you in the Naismith camp, as it were?
Do you know, I feel kind of split on it because at times I think I like what he's trying to do, but other times I think I'm not quite there yet. But listen, if he wins tomorrow comfortably, 3 or 4-0, then yeah, I think the job's probably going to be his. And as I say, I'll back it 100%. I've no doubt about that. But I just want more experience in there. It came out a couple of days ago, I think it was, that Chris Ware is still in the frame.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. He's got experience, but again, he doesn't really know the Scottish game. What I want ideally, a manager that wins games, yes. A manager that plays attacking football, yes. Naismith is kind of doing those at the moment, but the one thing that always gets to me is the fact that he's just not got that experience. And again, whether we finish 4th or 5th, we're going to be playing European football. Now, Naismith doesn't have that experience in European football, so that does concern me a little bit. But if he gets a positive result tomorrow, even if it's like 1-0 or 2-1, if he gets a positive result, I think that'll go a long way to get him the job.
Lee Johnson says that we're looking forward to the game. It was a great performance on Wednesday night, but now we need to focus on this game coming up. There's a real prize at the end of this game. 4th place. We want to be in Europe. It's a big thing for us, and we need to get the game. We need to win the game. Hibs are coming off a good win against Celtic the other night, as I said, Graham. But again, every derby is different.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a bit like Ross and Ross County. They know they have to win. It's the same with Hibs. They have to come with that mindset of they know they have to win the game. So they'll probably come out to have a go, and that might suit us because we, going forward, look a very good side now, especially at home. We've got Celtic problems, Ross County problems, Aberdeen problems. We are looking a real threat at home. So I think that would continue. I mean, it should, to be honest, be a good game tomorrow. And it's not entirely a shock. But it should be a good game tomorrow because it's two teams that want to win. You know, we're not going to sit back and hope for a draw, even though we know a draw gets us 4th. It's at home. You're in front of that home crowd. You have to go and win the game. It's a derby game. You've got to go and win it. So I think that will be the mindset tomorrow. But like I said to Ross, first goal is crucial. If Hearts score first, I think we could win the game quite comfortably. If Hibs get it, they've got something to hold on to, something to build on. So it's going to be interesting. That first goal is going to be crucial. But again, Hearts have shown recently that if we do go behind, Aberdeen, Rangers, St Mirren, we can come back. So we do have that kind of fighting spirit there. But, I mean, ideally I want to say win the game comfortably. Of course I do. But any win, I'll take it.
You're talking about new season, new players coming in that season, Graham, and a new signing would be, well, obviously he's been out for most of the season, but I'll be like a new signing to have Craig Gordon back from that season.
Not just him, Liam Boyce, Craig Halkett, Benny Benningham. There's a few players there that I'd be delighted to get back. But Craig Gordon will be huge. I mean, I think Xander Clark has been very impressive. He's made a couple of mistakes. St Mirren game should do better with a free kick. The Aberdeen game, he comes out for the cross and doesn't get it. But overall, I think Clark's been very impressive. I really, really like him a lot. But yeah, you know, Craig Gordon, he's Scotland's number 1. There's a reason for that because he's a top-class goalkeeper. Delighted if he, you know, when he gets back to full fitness, I'll be delighted to get him back. But as I say, one of our big misses has been Craig Halkett. He's been a huge miss because we don't defend our box well enough, and I think Halkett would do that. So we have missed a lot of real good players this season. But again, I mentioned on Twitter a few days ago that, or actually today, for me it's been a disappointing season because we should have been finishing 3rd. We've blown an 11-point lead, which is unacceptable. Finishing 4th or 5th is not ideal, but I'd rather finish 4th than finish 5th, obviously.
Just a quick word on Hibs, and I suppose when I'm saying a quick word from Hibs, you'll be like that. Aye, that's a quick word for you on Hibs. But yeah, Hibs has been very impressive this season, and I know I spoke about Stuart Kettlewell earlier on when I spoke about Motherwell. Lee Johnson has done a decent job for Hibs, and obviously, you know, if you weren't behind Lee Johnson, you must be after Wednesday night performance against Celtic. And okay, Celtic get the man sent off, but you still got to do the job, and they've done it very professionally. Thank you to Scott Bain.
Yeah, I mean, if they finish with Hearts, it's a great season, let's be honest, because that's what they want. And I think you've only got to look back a few months ago. We talked about earlier on the El Sakio, who was going to get sacked. Yeah. Johnson kept his job, and he's done well. There's been moments in the season I think they've been not great. You know, I don't know. I think Kevin Nisbet might be out on Sunday. On Saturday. I'm not sure, but they do. There's no doubt they've got good players in that team. Eli Ewan is a very good player. They've got a lot of good quality signings in that team, but they've just maybe been a bit frustrating at times. I mean, the goals he scored on Wednesday night, Scott Bain, James, I don't know what he's doing for half those goals, to be honest, but you've got to take them. And like you said, when Maeda gets sent off, the game changes. But I've seen numerous times that 10 men can go and win the game. And even Celtic, you'd expect them with 10 men to win the game, but fair play to Hibs, they come back and won the game comfortably. But tomorrow's a different game. If they win, finishing 4th, I think the first European game would be the 10th of August, I think it is. Whereas if you finish 5th, the first European game is the 27th of July. So it's not a massive turnaround. But yeah, it's a massive game for Hibs tomorrow as well as it is Hearts. But I'm still hoping home advantage will help us. If the game is at Easter Road, I'll be panicking a bit more. But the fact is at Tynecastle, the fact we're going to have that crowd behind us, I think it will help. But I mean, I know that Hibs fans are, and again, all through the season, I've seen a lot of Hibs fans not happy about Lee Johnson, which I do get. But if he wins tomorrow, they'll probably have a statue of him at Easter Road on a Monday.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I suppose that was the first game I've beaten in Wednesday Connect game, and it was sunny through the whole game. And then I think the sun got in Scott Bain's eyes in the second half. But anyway, so that's a big dabber tomorrow, Hearts against Hibs. Another game, it's not on the telly, but I'm not surprised, but I'm a wee bit disappointed, especially for Ross County fans and the Hearts and Hibs, because I would rather watch Hearts and Hibs than watching, say, a game in the Premiership. But anyway, I can get away with saying that one under life. Got on with it. St Mirren against Rangers, Graham, 12:30 kickoff tomorrow. Before we get to that, in the nick of time, Michael Fagan has just joined us, so we're just going to park the Premiership preview for a wee minute or two and speak about the big game in the Championship tonight, the playoffs between Ayr United and Partick Thistle down at Somerset Park. And I'm delighted to say that we're now joined by Michael Fagan of the Ayr United media team. We won't keep you long, because you'll be going to the game soon. So I've got to hurry up, Michael, and go on with it. So, Michael, first of all, thanks for joining us on the show. And are you looking forward to it, but nervously looking forward to the game tonight?
Yeah, I mean, nervous, yes, but far less nervous than I was last week. Obviously, last week we were going on a level playing field, nothing each, and unfortunately the result didn't go our way last week. Thistle scored 3 good goals and we're 3-0 down tonight. So the pressure for me is all on Partick Thistle. But listen, stranger things have happened. We've scored 4 against Thistle at home this season earlier on in the year. We scored 5 against a very good Queen's Park side earlier on in the season. So there is goals in this United team, and I don't know why, but I've got a slight feeling that we can do it. So I'm positive going into it tonight.
Your manager said, Lee Bullen said yesterday in this press conference that Akinyemi is back in training, and obviously he'll be in the squad for tonight. How big a boost is it for the big man to pull on the boots tonight at home?
Yeah, it's massive boost, massive. I mean, last Friday rather, when Thistle would have saw that Dipper wasn't in the lineup, that would have been a massive, massive lift for them. And they obviously went on and took that lift in their stride and done the job. So yeah, massive boost for us tonight. Gives us that focal point up front and gives us our real talisman. The man that scored loads of goals this season. I mean, player of the season in the Championship. So tonight's his night to shine. Great weather, great night for football. So it's all set up to be a real good game.
Graham, I'm looking forward to seeing this game as well, because it's going to be a brilliant atmosphere. Because as we said to Ross earlier on when we spoke about Ross County, this is a kind of cup final in itself before you get to the main cup final.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're looking for inspiration for Ayr United, you've only got to look back a few weeks ago when Peterborough were 4-0 up against Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday came back and won. So it can be done. But again, as I've said about Ross County and Hearts, the first goal is crucial. If Ayr United get it, then they've got something to build on. I think the atmosphere could be rocking tonight. Partick have got a lot of threat. You know, Brian Graham and Scott Tiffany, as Ross mentioned earlier, are dangerous. But the fact that Akinyemi might be back is going to be a huge boost for United. It's going to be a difficult night. But if they can get that first goal, get the crowd rocking, it could be a really, really special night. But I think no matter what, to be honest, I've been impressed with United. They've been a very good side this season. No matter what happens, they've had a very, very good season. It would be, I've said last week, I would like to see both United and Partick come up because they've been brilliant. They've been brilliant additions to the Premier League. But there is still that chance. While there's still that chance, an early goal for United changes everything. Partick might start to get a bit worried if United get that first goal and then build on that. But it's going to be such an important night. But it's great that, again, the Championship's getting highlighted on BBC. I think it is. It's great that it's getting highlighted. But whatever happens, genuinely, I think Ayr have been fantastic. Played some really good football. I've said numerous times, Akinyemi has been outstanding this season. I'll be surprised if we're there next season because he's far too good for the Championship, I'm going to be honest. But Ayr have been brilliant. Lee Bullen's been fantastic. For me, should probably be... I mean, I know Postacoglu's going to get Manager of the Year. But for me, Lee Bullen's got every right to be up there as well because he's done a brilliant, brilliant job with a very limited budget. It would be fantastic for United as they come back tonight. It's going to be very difficult, but that first goal is going to be so, so crucial.
And do you think that's the difference, Michael? Obviously, you've got a long way to go in this game, and then whoever you play in the final. But is that the difference between Akinyemi? If Ayr United goes up, Akinyemi stays. If Ayr United goes, do you have that doubt in the back of the mind that it might go?
I mean, yeah, potentially that could be a massive factor in Dippo staying to see out his contract if we do end up getting promoted. Sorry, but I mean, I've not been told anything else really. It's more just Dippo's here just now. He's going to give everything for the club at this current moment, and then we'll see what happens at the end of the season. Although I would be surprised if we keep him, and I'd be delighted if we kept him because he's been phenomenal. I mean, comes up from I think it's the 6th tier of English football, not even the top in the non-league kind of pyramid setup. Sets the header on fire straight away in the Championship. I mean, let's not get this wrong here. In the League Cup, he didn't score a goal in any of the group games, and there's question marks over him already from some of our fan base. And I think that first away league game against Queen's Park when he scored that first goal, he really bullied the Queen's Park defence that night, and he's continued that form pretty much throughout the season. So he'll be a massive factor tonight, and fingers crossed we can keep hold of him next season, no matter which league we're in.
I was watching the press conference yesterday getting your manager. I think he's confident going into the game. He says it's a big challenge for us. It's going to be a difficult game, but it's and also he says that we've had a decent week in training. Obviously, you work for Ayr United. What's the mood in the camp been like since last Friday night?
Yeah, it's an interesting point you made there at the press conference. Also, I was in there yesterday, and the mood around the camp is very good. It's not what you'd expect. It's not down at all. Players are laughing, joking. I mean, you should have heard the noise coming from the canteen when they were in getting their food. The camaraderie is brilliant amongst the squad. It's a real togetherness. So there's certainly no sign in them not believing that we can do it, which is great to see, obviously, from an Ayr fans perspective. So, yeah, mood in the camp is surprisingly good, actually.
Mitchell, I mean, at the start of the season, did you as an Ayr fan or any Ayr United fans expect to be in this position that you're in a playoff semi-final with a chance to really have a chance to get promoted? Did you guys ever think that was possible this season?
God, my aim this season was literally just to avoid relegation again and kind of solidify our status as a Championship club, and then hopefully build for future years. But it's taken every Ayr fan by surprise. I mean, what a season we've had. I think you mentioned it a couple of minutes ago that whatever happens tonight, I think it's important to remember where we were last season. Obviously, we had to beat Thistle on the final day to stay up, which we managed to do, thankfully. But we need to remember where we were then, fighting against relegation. Now we were literally, when you look at the end of season league table, we're only 5 points off a Dundee side who won and got into the Premiership. So when you look at it that way, 5 points off winning promotion to the Premiership with a squad that's had a few new additions, obviously most notably depot, but a squad that was largely retained from last season. And I mean, what a difference it's been. It's been a great season. So absolutely a season beyond my wildest expectations.
I mean, apart from, I was going to say, apart from Deepo Akinyemi, obviously, is there other players in our United side that stood out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the United squad, as the manager said and has said in previous press conferences, as well as the one yesterday, the squad in general is quite inexperienced for these type of games. That they've not really experienced playoffs in Scotland. Certainly, maybe some of them have down south in their earlier careers, but I think Josh Mullen was a real coup at the start of the season when we got him on loan from Livy, and then managed to extend his deal until the end of the season after Livy agreed to end his contract, which was great news for us. I think he's really brought that experience into the camp, and obviously he was promoted with Livy and Ross County before, so he's brought a wealth of experience, contributed with goals, assists, and he got when he first joined. I was looking on Twitter, and he had a nickname from Livy fans, the Postman, because his crosses were so good. And obviously, it's quite a funny one, but I didn't expect his crosses to be as good as they are. They're just so pinpoint every time. He's a real threat for United, and we need him to be on form tonight. I think he's a massive part in our team. He provides great service for the likes of Dippo, and I mean, so do the other players. I mean, Andy Murdoch. He's been in the club 5 seasons now. I know he's not a new signing, but he's for me the unsung hero of all our successes. When he's in the team, the midfield looks so much more solid. So yeah, but the whole team, honestly, the whole team's been brilliant this season, and like I said, it's beyond anyone's wildest expectations where we are just now.
Before we let you go, Mitchell, I know you're in the wake of the game. Take you up for the media team tonight.
Yeah.
I know we say this a lot in football, but the first goal is very important tonight. Yeah,
massively. I think, like Graham said, if you get the first goal tonight, it's game on. It's game on straight away. That will get the crowd going. Somerset Road will really try and suck that ball into the back of the net when we're shooting towards it. You know, it provides a great atmosphere when it's rocking, when it's full. We have some of the best atmospheres in the championship are behind that goal. You know. So yeah, that will really push the players on. I think first goal is massive. If this will get it, I hope it doesn't, obviously, but it probably would deflate the majority of the crowd. So I think it's really important that we start quickly, try and get that early goal. And I think even if you go into half time with a 1-goal lead and without conceding, I think it's game on in the second half because we're going to really go for it. And I think, like Graham mentioned, if we get the first goal, the pressure really heaps on to Partick Thistle. And for me, Thistle's weak spot in their team is their defence. So with Akinyemi back, that only bodes well for United tonight.
I was just going to ask, sorry, Michael, just going to ask Mitchell as well. I've said this numerous times as well. I love these old-fashioned grounds. I love United. Somerset Park is a brilliant ground. It really is. But is there any plans for it to get, like, you know, done up or anything, like regrading or anything like that? Because honestly, I used to go to Hearts games and that in like the 80s, 90s, and I love the old-fashioned grounds. Is United going to stay as it is, or is there any plans to like upgrade it anyway?
It's going to stay largely the same, Graham, as far as I know so far. We've already had the Somerset Hub was built a few seasons ago, which was contains club shops, offices, the sports bar, the kind of social club, and an outdoor bit for the bar. And it's been brilliant. Really, really nice kind of modern feel to it, and it's really added a lot more space and a lot more of a professional look at the club. So that's been brilliant. At the end of this season, the North Terracing is being redeveloped, so it's going to be, I think, partially seated, but they're also going to keep that terrace feel as well. I think there's going to be offices, there's going to be a media room in there dedicated to us and the wider press. So it all bodes well. I think the plan is just to stay at Somerset Park and kind of develop it where needed, which is my preference, and certainly I think the majority of Ayr fans' preference is just to stay at Somerset Park rather than move elsewhere.
That's good. That's good to hear because I love still seeing these old-fashioned grounds like that, like Gayfield. I think it's great. It brings like that 80s vibe again. I think it's brilliant. I really do. I love it.
Yeah. Sorry to jump in again there. It's just I'm with Graham on that one. See, when I go to grounds like Starks Park, Raith Rovers, and this is just an example. Raith Rovers are far from the worst club, but obviously the away fans are situated up in that big stand behind the goal. Home fans behind the goal. There's no either side of the pitch apart from that little corner on the left hand side as you look from the away end, and the atmosphere is just not the same. Seeing these old grounds like Arbroath, like Ayr United, when the place is rocking, it is rocking, if you know what I mean. So I think that plays a massive part, and that kind of also vouches for the fact that terrace grounds are better. They provide a better atmosphere, and like yourself, Graham, I'm pretty sure there's hundreds of other away fans in Scotland that would say the likes of Somerset, Gayfield are some of their favourite away days because they just enjoy going back to that kind of old-fashioned football ground type of game.
And I'm happy to hear that as well, Mitchell, because obviously, like the football club moves ground, and and then you lose that kind of like fan base.
Exactly.
I mean, I think like the best example was Clyde. They moved to Broadwood as well, but I think like Tottenham, did they not build the old stadium on the new stadium? And I think Juventus as well. Over in Italy as well. Just before we let you go down, because I know you're itching to get away from us. Honestly, I won't take it personally at all. Is the game a complete sellout tonight? I would imagine it is.
To be honest, I don't know. I think it'll be pretty much packed to the rafters, though. I think the gaffer mentioned in the press conference yesterday that he expects us to lose a couple of those kind of 2.5 fans that we had at Thistle, understandably, and he gets that. Obviously, the performance wasn't up to scratch, but I think certainly tonight the town will turn out, and even the ones that aren't maybe regulars at the game will come along and show support. And my hope is that we can put on a performance tonight, and I'm sure that we will put on a performance tonight to kind of get those fans in on a more regular basis, because ever since the likes of the chairman, Davy Smith, and Graham Maffey, the managing director, came in, those numbers have just increased with so much more community interaction. Things for not just in football, but things around the community that can get younger people involved, and their parents will bring them along, and then they'll tell their mates, and then they'll bring their mates along. So it's all boding well for a bigger fan base, and it's certainly growing this season, and I think tonight will be no different.
Can I just say before Mitchell goes, by the way, honestly, it's great to have like United fans on this show as well. We don't really get a lot of like lower league clubs on here, so honestly, to have you on has been brilliant. You can tell how passionate you are, and honestly, mate, best of luck for United tonight. And even if you don't get up, best of luck next season, mate, because you deserve to come up.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Thanks
for coming on. Yeah.
No
See you,
bother.
Mitchell. Bye-bye.
Right. Thanks very much. Cheers.
See you, mate.
There we go. That was Mitchell there on his way to the game. And Ayr United, you can imagine me calling him Michael. That's terrible.
I was going to say, you call him like 5 times during that.
Sometimes I feel as though this show should be not live. Good for my benefit only. But anyway, yeah, I'm sorry to Michael, but it's called Mitchell. I'm surprised you answered. Yeah, I'm surprised you answered my questions, Graham. But that must be how kind is he gives answers to anything. Michael, Mitchell, Mick, Michelle. No, I wouldn't go. So that's
He's a good guy, mate. He's a good guy, Mitchell. He's a good guy.
Aye, so hopefully we'll get him back on when we beat Partick Thistle tonight. You know, as how I said that because Vinny's not on, Graham. So there you go. So okay, so Chris, during the Partick Thistle manager said yesterday, yes, we are psychic. There is so much to look forward to, and the team and the supporters is in good spirits. I'm looking forward to tonight's game, Grim, because I think it will be a decent atmosphere. Partick Thistle would want to maybe score 1 or 2 more. Ayr United wants to score that first goal, or else, as Mitchell says, that the fans will be a bit deflated. So it's really all to play for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we give TV companies are kicking on the show, rightly so. But to be fair, BBC's done a great job on highlighting the Championship this season. They showed a lot of games, and tonight, is brilliant. It's a massive, massive game. It's maybe not as close as a lot of folk might have thought it would be. Obviously, with Partick has been 3-0 up, but it's going to be so important. Going to be so intriguing to see what happens. And as I said to Mitchell there, the first goal is so important. I mean, if United get it, it'll give them a massive boost, and I think they've got to get it early, within the first 10 minutes. If they get that, I think they could have a decent night. And again, like you mentioned there as well, Mitchell, having Akinyemi back would be a huge boost because he's been so important to them this season. Having him back would be a massive boost. On the other side of that, Partick have been excellent this season, played some really good football. They look dangerous going forward. Brian Graham's in a hot vein of form. Tiffany's scoring goals. They've got a really good side there. It's going to be very intriguing. It really is. But I kind of feel it's a bit like the Queen's Park Partick Thistle game. I think Partick were 4-3 up in that game, and then they got 2 early goals and basically killed the game. You don't, as a neutral, you don't want that tonight. You don't want Partick getting an early goal and basically the game being dead. You want kind of United to get back in the game and give themselves a chance, but it could be a really good night. It could be a classic. And as Mitchell said there, Somerset Park's an old-fashioned ground. It's a great wee ground as well. It's quite tight as well, quite compact. I hope it is full. I'm sure it will be. Maybe a lot of fans might not go along because they're 3-0 down. But you know what? What a night it would be. If they come back from this, what a fantastic night it would be for United. And to be playing probably, it'll be Ross County or Kilmarnock, either one of them. I genuinely think Ayr or Partick Thistle fans have their chances. And you asked the question earlier on about who would you rather play. I think you'd probably rather play Kilmarnock. I think you've got more of a chance against Kilmarnock. I think Ross County have got a decent side there. Ross spoke about the spirit they've got. I think you'd rather play Kilmarnock, to be honest. If it was me, I'd rather play Kilmarnock.
Now, if anybody's watching the show, right, and from a Partick Thistle persuasion, and you know that the PA announcer, I would like, when Tiffany could score that season, I would like them to play I Think We Are Wrong Now.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that. I was going to say the same thing. You stole my joke.
Yeah. Oh, well, you can use it on Sunday, Graham. Yeah, because you know how like we've got different audience for different shows and different days and all that. Maybe. So there you go. Sorry to steal your thunder, but I couldn't help myself, Graham. I was itching to say that.
That's right. I was going to say, was another. No, I'm not going to say it. It was another Partick Thistle boy that went for a poo and basically got sacked after that. When he mentioned it on the channel. Was that Hamilton? Was that Hamilton?
Yeah, Hamilton. Yeah, that was.
I couldn't remember which one it was.
Yeah, Hamilton TV. That was a classic one. That's
that was still one of the highlights of the season. That happened. It was so funny.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so back to the Premiership then. We're jumping about tonight all over the place. I feel as though I'm in Australia. Sorry, Graham, I'm just a funny guy. Okay, so let's continue now. To St Mirren against Rangers tomorrow at 12:30 kickoff. Again, this is a good game as well, Graham, because Rangers will go on to end the season on a high as of Michael Beale, but St Mirren's had a decent season and they will want to sign off with a home win in front of their own fans.
They will, but it's a dead rubber in terms of points. I keep saying that you want to, you're right, you want to end the season on a high, especially at home. St Mirren, disappointing on Wednesday night. I did think they might put more of an effort in against Aberdeen, but they were disappointed. Unfortunately, red card changed the game, I think. But they have had a good season. There's no doubt about that. I think St Mirren fans can be proud of what they've done this season. They've had a very, very good season. They've looked really good this season. And I think the fact they finish in the top 6 will be a massive bonus. Can they build on that next season? That'll be what they're looking for. Robertson's done a very good job. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, at home, last game of the season, you want to go into someone on a high, win the game against a Rangers side who I think they flattered to deceive this season, to be honest. If I'm going to be brutally honest, I don't think they've been that great. On Wednesday, we gifted them 2 goals. They took the chance, but we gifted them 2 goals. We know that on Wednesday night they had a lot of players leaving Scott Arfield, Morelos, Kent, for example, they'll want to end the season on a high as well. But I think if you're Michael Beale, you've got to be looking for better next season. They've got to be closer. They've got to be closer to Celtic. They need to be challenging a lot better than they were this season. So it's going to be in terms of points, it means nothing. But I suppose if you're Michael Beale, you want a performance. You want to see players that want to be there next season. If you're Robinson, you can be very happy with your team this season. I think it'll be a decent crowd again, especially because that's at Mirren Park. It'll be a decent crowd. So yeah, I don't know what to expect from this game, but Rangers probably would just sneak it. But again, Rangers have to do better next season because this season's not been anywhere near good enough.
I've been quite impressed with a couple of players, obviously Mark O'Hara, because I'm a bit biased that way. But Curtis Main, he came to Celtic Park the other week and scored, what was it? He scored 2 goals last week. And to be honest, he took a score a hat-trick then last week. And I think, so he's a decent return for him at St Mirren.
I don't think if you asked the St Mirren fan at the start of the season, if they had Curtis Main, they would be thinking, he'll do well. I don't think anybody would have thought that. But to be fair, he's experienced, he's a good player. He's done a very good job. And yeah, he's been a real highlight for St Mirren this season. There's been a lot of them like that. Alec Gogic has done well. Alex Grieve has done well. When he was fit, Ayunga did well. Mark O'Hara's been really good. So they have had a lot of positives this season. As I said, the fact they finished top 6 at the start of the season, probably a lot of St Mirren fans thought just stay up might be the highlight, but they've done very, very well. I've had this cough for the last few days, so annoying. But yeah, they have had a very good season. There's no doubt about that. And, they'll be disappointed they've not managed to get European football. They had the chance still on Wednesday. They couldn't quite make it. But listen, Robinson's done a great job. He's been up there for manager of the season, which I completely understand. But they'll want to win the game tomorrow at home, end the season on a high. But, I said that Rangers will probably win. This game might have draw written all over it because it means very little. But I think, again, I keep going back to this fact that when you're at Celtic or Rangers, all that matters is winning the league. You've got to win things. Rangers have won nothing this season. You can't go another season without winning anything. So it's a massive season for Michael Beale next season. They've already strengthened. They've got that Kieran Dowling, I think, from Norwich. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to strengthen. They're going to have to strengthen massively in the summer. Obviously, they've lost Kent, Morelos, Arfield. They're going to lose a few more, so they have to strengthen really well to kind of catch Celtic. But I'm not saying this to be biased. I'm not a Rangers fan, but I've not really been overly impressed with Michael Beale's team this season. They've had a few decent results, mainly away from home, actually. I didn't think they were great on Wednesday. We gifted them 2 goals. So I don't think they've been that great, and they have to be better next season.
Yeah, no, we've spoken about that on the show a few times, Graham. Like, Rangers has yet to find that kind of 90-minute performance. It's always been like 45 minutes here and there, and like 20 minutes here and there. But I suppose if you want to win leagues or cup competitions, you need to put that together in a 90-minute game. It's all right playing well for 45 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever the case may be, but you need to put that 90-minute performance together.
Yeah, I think they had a decent performance against Hearts at Tynecastle, against Hibs at Easter Road, against Livingston, again, away from home, ironically. But I think the fact, you spoke about this last week, I think, where you spoke about the fact that they've said that there's not that big a gap now between Celtic and Rangers. The gap's still massive. I know that overall, in terms of the games, it's not been, Celtic haven't hammered Rangers in every game. Rangers have competed well. But the fact is, they've only won 1 game against Celtic this season, and it was a game that didn't matter in terms of league. So they need to be doing better next season. And I don't think, for me, say next season, for example, I think it starts in August. Let's say by October, for example, Celtic are already 4 or 5 points clear. Rangers fans won't accept that. They've got to be competing for the title next season, because if they're not, I think Michael Beale's going to be under a lot of pressure. I'm still not convinced Beale's the right opponent in the first place. I've not seen enough of them to say that he should have been given the job. I know he was there under Steven Gerrard, but for me, I still think sometimes the way he speaks, I'm just never convinced by him. And next season is a massive, massive season because I mentioned earlier on, they cannot afford next season to win nothing again. That would not go down well with Rangers fans, which I completely understand. Because if you're at a big club, you've got to win things. And at the moment, they've not. You know, they've lost to Celtic in the league. They lost to Celtic in the 2 cups. They can't do that next season, or there'll be a lot of people not happy.
Let's look at the managers, what they said, Graham, about the game. Stephen Robertson said, and he was very honest today. He says, with this group of boys, there's one thing I'm guaranteed, they give you 100% energy and commitment. Our motivation is beating Rangers and Celtic in the one season. We want to win the game. And Michael Will says, getting this game out of the way and looking forward to doing business in the summer, and we're looking forward to the pre-season. And also he said that we are looking forward to this game. Stephen Robertson is doing a brilliant job, and they have got a good, they're in good whole form. I suppose, like, going back to what Robertson was saying to them, I suppose like that's what you get when you actually bring the Motherwell team to St Mirren, because obviously Stephen Robertson was at Motherwell and he's brought half of the team along the M8 and he knows what he's getting.
I suppose it's that phrase that you stick to what you know best, and he does know those Motherwell players, and it's worked out for him. But you've also got to. It's very hard to gel a team together, and I think he's done that. I mentioned weeks ago the fact that at the start of the season they didn't start the season very well, knocked out the Premier Sports or the Viaplay Cup early, hammered by Aberdeen, and it looked like it was going to be a long season. But to be fair to them, they did very well. You know, they beat Celtic earlier on the season, and that kind of gave them a lift. And they are very strong at home. You know, their home record is very impressive. I think they've lost to Celtic. I think they've lost to. Was it Hibs they lost to? And I can't remember who else they lost to, but they are very good at home.
Yeah, Hibs beat them.
But the signings they've made have been very good. I mean, Jonah Ayunga was very good for them, and then he got injured, so he's been a huge miss. But they've had a very good season. You know, you can look through that whole team, and you know him obviously, but Mark O'Hara has been outstanding this season. Some of the goals he scored have been so important. You look at the goals he scored against Ibrox, 2 of the best goals I think you'll see this season, to be honest. Great finishes from him. And he looks a very good player.
And he's not even 30 yet, Glim.
Well, that, you know, once he gets a proper pre-season, how good will he be? So you've got to give massive kudos to St Mirren. They've had a very, very good season. And I think Robinson, again, he's been mentioned for the Hearts job a few times. I still, for me, wouldn't take him at Hearts. I think the job's too big for him. But a team like St Mirren, he's a very, very good manager. You know, again, there's no doubt about that. He's done very well. He's signed very well. He's got the best out of a group of really good players. So, you know, fair play and kudos to him. And if they round off the season with a win against Rangers, then it'll take him, you know, it'll be massive for him for next season. What they do next season now, I suppose, he'll be looking at next season going, right, can we now finish higher than just finish in the top 6? Can we finish 3rd or 4th and really put parts? Aberdeen and Hibs, that's got to be the next game. Because the one thing that I would fear is, and this happens a lot, when you do well one season, the next season you don't do quite as well. You know, I think Livingston had this a while ago. When they came up, they did very well. They finished 3rd, and then the next season they were like finishing bottom half. St Mirren don't want to do that. They want to kind of keep trying to aim higher than that. And I don't think there's any reason that they can't. They've shown they can compete very well this season. Who they send in the summer is going to be interesting. It's going to be, I'm honestly, generally the summer, even when there's no games on, I'm generally excited to see what happens in the summer with teams getting new players and new managers in. I think Robinson's got his stock very high. I think he'll sign some decent players. He might go back to Motherwell again. I don't know how much he'd cost, but would the likes of Kevin Van Veen turn up at St Mirren? I wouldn't bet against it.
Yeah, just hire a bus and just take over the Motherwell players and the youth team as well. But yeah, brilliant season as well. And you know, we sit here every week and we talk about managers, Graham, and you know, you can or like Postecoglou did win it, the rightest player of the year last week. No surprise there. on the verge of winning the treble. But if you look at the likes of Lee Johnson, Stephen Robertson, at Murrow and at St Mirren, and I suppose like I would maybe put Stuart Kettlewell into that bracket if he came in before Christmas, because he actually turned that team around.
It's funny because I thought about this earlier on, and I kind of think, and a lot of Hearts fans mentioned this as well, had Nielsen been sacked earlier than he was and Naismith brought in, we might have finished third. So same with Stuart Kettlewell. Had they come in a little bit earlier, maybe they could have been challenging for that top 6 place. But it swings and roundabouts. But Kettlewell's done a great job. Robertson's done a great job. I genuinely think if you asked me at the start of the season about who would finish in the top 6, obviously Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, no doubt about that. Aberdeen, yes. I don't know if I would have put St Mirren in there. So they probably overachieved. Hibs probably would have been there as well. So maybe most of that's not a surprise. But I think St Mirren have overachieved. And I think, again, the job that Robertson's done, you mentioned Lee Johnson there, has done a very good job, who could still finish 4th, hopefully not. Kettle has done a great job. Barry Robson's done a remarkable job at Aberdeen turning them round. So yeah, it's been a season of probably highs and lows for a lot of teams. But for Stuart Kettlewell and Stephen Robertson, they've done a fantastic job on limited budgets. Let's be honest. And Motherwell again will look to try and aim higher now next season. My worry for them would be if they lose Van Veen, that's going to be a massive blow to them, because the goals he scores are so important.
And as for Rangers, Graham, obviously that this is the first full pre-season. Michael Beale he says he can't wait to work to buy some players in the window. But also it's a rebuilding job as well, Graham, because as you mentioned, Scotty Arfield's going, Morelos, McGregor. Okay, we kind of knew about McGregor going as well. So there's about 5 players leaving Rangers, and that's 5 quality players. Even though Morelos hasn't been at his best the last season or two, but you know that there's a player in there. So it's a rebuilding job for Rangers in that season.
It is, and I think one of the big things they want to try and do, whether they can or not, I don't know, but they want to try and keep Todd Cantwell. He's been fantastic for Rangers since he came in. Again, Malik Tillman as well has been very impressive. They want to try and keep those 2 players in particular. And then it's who they bring in. As I say, they've signed Kieran Dowell. John Shooter's now back fully fit from injury. I'm not going to say good luck to him because he now plays for Rangers, but fair enough. But yeah, I mean, they are going to have to strengthen in the summer. They have to sign a couple of strikers. Again, Fasha Sakala is a frustrating player. At times he looks really good. Other times he looks like he's never played football before. So they do need a bit more up front. They'll have Cholak back at some point, but they are going to have to strengthen. There's no doubt about that. They've got a lot of experienced players leaving, and it's like in the late 90s when they lost guys like Stuart McCall, Ali McCoist, all that, Brian Laudrup, Gascoigne and stuff. You have to, every season you've got to rebuild, and they have to rebuild massively because, again, as I said earlier, they do not want to be behind Celtic again. They can't afford to not win anything next season. So what he does in the summer is going to be huge. I mean, again, I go on a lot of radio. I listen to a lot of radio shows and stuff. And even now, there's still a lot of Rangers fans that are still not convinced by Michael Beale. I don't know if that's going to change any point soon, but they have to strengthen well in the summer, because if they don't, and like I said, if they fall behind Celtic early in the season, I think the fixtures come out middle of June, I think. How they fall is going to be interesting. But if they fall behind Celtic early in the season, I think a lot of Rangers fans might start saying, do you know what? He needs to go because he's not good enough.
Let's speak about Celtic then. We can now officially say champion. That was the worst secret kept ever, because we kind of knew in the new year, or maybe after the new year, Graham. But anyway, another brilliant game. I bet you're thinking to yourself, every time you say it's a brilliant game, Michael, I'm going to get a pound and I'm going to be a millionaire and all that. So, but no, you're not getting anything off me. I don't mean that, honest. Celtic against Aberdeen on that game is on Sky, 12:30 kickoff. Postecoglou has been linked with Tottenham, and yes, he did get asked that question today. I think he's been linked with every team in the UK actually. At the moment, Tottenham's the latest job. He batted that away. Surprise, surprise. He says that tomorrow is going to be a very special day, but the game is the most important thing before we lift the trophy. And when we do, that will be a super proud moment for me, the fans, and the team. We are determined to put on a good performance. Barry Robson has done a great job. Now, I suppose that if you were a Celtic fan, Graham, even though they won the league, do you think that they've took the eye off the ball in the last few weeks? Especially Wednesday night.
There's no doubt about that, because you've not done that a few weeks ago when you played against Hearts. Now you've chucked it. You're not interested now. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that Celtic have switched off completely. The form's been very poor. I still expect them to win the cup quite comfortably, if I'm being honest. But they have switched off massively. To be fair to Postecoglou, he did say on Wednesday that was basically my fault. I made a lot of changes to the team. But even then, the changes they made should still have been good enough to beat Hibs. And they were 1-0 up. They should have been good enough to win that game, and they weren't. There's no doubt they're sending off changes of the game, but they should still be good enough to see that out. But yeah, there's no doubt that Celtic have switched off a little bit. And yeah, I mean, Wednesday night was a disappointing result. Disappointing performance as well. Again, I keep going back to the fact that I don't know what Scott Bain's doing for half those goals. But, Celtic have done what they had to do. They won the league. They won the League Cup. They can afford to switch off. Maybe switching off sounds a bit harsh, but they have let the form slip a little bit. A lot of Celtic fans think it's a bit of a worry for the cup final. I don't think it is. Celtic will play a strong side against Inverness. They'll win the game, I think, quite comfortably. No disrespect to Inverness fans, but I don't see anything else but a Celtic win. But, Celtic have got the job done. They're going into that game tomorrow as champions. It's going to be I'm gutted, though, because I hope that on Wednesday night, St Mirren might take up something off Aberdeen, which still gave us a chance to third. Didn't happen. But, I mean, yeah, tomorrow's one of these games that I expect Celtic to win, but I don't know how it's going to go because Aberdeen have nothing to play for. So how do they play this game? Do they go and just think, do you know what? Let's have a go. Last game of the season, doesn't matter. Let's have a go. They've got a lot of players that might leave in the summer. I don't know if Duke will stay long term. Leighton Clarkson, I know, is maybe going to sign a new contract at Aberdeen. It's going to be an interesting game. It really is. But in terms of league, it doesn't matter because it's a dead rubber. But I just wonder, how does Postecoglou play tomorrow? Does he bring back the likes of Kyogo? Does he bring back the likes of Jota? Does he play a full-strength team? Or is it a chance to play some more young players? The season's pretty much done. They've got a cup final to look forward to in a few weeks' time. How does Celtic play tomorrow?
Barry Robson said today that the team have taken on board what we're trying to do, and we had a successful start here at Aberdeen. I talk a lot about fight and running and working hard, but that's what the game is. It's never changed. When you bring that, you give yourself a chance. It's not just about that. There's a lot of different elements that goes into the game. But the boys will never change that we want to win every game. Graham, how impressed have you been with Barry Robson since this went into Aberdeen? I think that was Barry Robson's, second game that he beat Rangers up there?
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that he's not done well because he has. He's done a very good job. I think to be 11 points behind Hearts at one point and come back, and they've taken advantage of Hearts really mucking it up. We've nobody to blame but ourselves for making massive, massive errors. Robin Nielsen, the players have got to take a lot of blame for the fact that we are not third. But fair play Aberdeen, they've taken advantage. A lot of folk when Robson got the job were thinking, is that an appointment? But he's done a fantastic job. He's done a great job. You can tell the players are playing for him more than they did under Jim Goodwin, but that's another story. But he's got them playing I'm not going to say well, because to be honest, against Hearts, I thought they were terrible. I thought the football they played was absolutely horrendous. It was just long ball after long ball. But they've managed to get the job done. They've managed to finish third, and fair play to them. They deserve it. They're going to probably get group stage football. They deserve it. It's going to be £5 million. Fair play to them. What they're going to have to do next season, though, as Hearts found out to their cost, they're going to have to juggle Thursday night football and Sunday afternoon football. It's going to be very difficult to juggle those two things. They will need a stronger squad, but there's no doubt Barry Wilson's done a fantastic job. Fair play to him, fair play to Aberdeen. They do deserve to get third place because they've managed to basically break up an 11-point gap and get that place. So fair play to him. And there's no doubt he's done a magnificent job. He really has. I can't sit here and deny it and be biased. He's done a great job. Next season, they're going to have to try and build on that now. £5 million is a lot of money. What Aberdeen do with that is going to be interesting to see who they bring in. I don't know if Duke will stay. He might, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the summer.
Let's hope when we do this show on Sunday, Touchwood, that we won't be talking about VAR, but I just have a sneaky feeling that VAR will be talking about. You mentioned about VAR on Wednesday night, Graham, when Maeda gets sent off. I think that changed the game, but also I think it changed the momentum of the game because obviously you were watching the Rangers and Hearts game, but when the Hibs man gets sent off, that took about 4 minutes, and then when Kevin Clancy went over to watch it on the big monitor as well, that still took a bit of time as well. So do you think that kind of put Celtic off the game a wee bit, not making any excuses up for Celtic? By the way, Hibs were the better team on the night, deserve to win, but do you think that if you break up that play maybe for about 4 or 5 minutes in the game, it kind of breaks the momentum up? And don't forget that Hibs were down to 10 men, and then also 4 minutes later, oh no, you're not getting sent off. So do you think that kind of play against Celtic side minds a wee bit?
Possible. I wouldn't like to think so because it is Celtic. You've got a strong mentality. And to be honest, I watched that back quite a few times. I'm still not sure that's not a red card. I think he's late. I think it's reckless. I still don't. That for me is not a clean obvious error. I think that's still a red card for me. And I'm not being biased because it's Hibs. I think that's a red card, to be honest.
Are you,
so I was genuinely surprised that the referee.
Are you talking about the Maeda sent off, Graham?
No, the Jake Doyle-Hayes one where he was sent off and then it got rescinded.
Right, okay, yeah.
I thought that was a red card. I've seen it a few times and I thought it was still a red card, but what do I know? I'm just a bloke that does a radio show. But yeah, I mean, it maybe did knock Celtic a little bit because I think if Hibs go down to 10 men as well, I think Celtic win the game. I genuinely do. But the fact that they didn't, I mean, I think Doyle-Hayes gets away with that, to be honest. And again, we've seen numerous times this season that VAR has been used so poorly, in my opinion. I can only hope that it gets better next season. I've got my doubts. There's been so many horrendous decisions this season.
And the season after that, and the season after that.
I know, but I mean, I keep saying on the show that when you've got your own chief executive, Ian Maxwell, saying that it'll be horrendous for the first few months, that's not a great sight. And it's been horrendous for pretty much every single game. It's not been used properly. It's been... I mean, again, I keep going back to the fact that I've seen a lot of folks say get VAR in the bin. I've done it myself. But VAR's not the issue. It's the folk that are using it. They don't know how to use it properly. You said this numerous times as well. And other folk who've been on the show said it as well. Bringing it in halfway through a season was an absolute joke. But it's Scottish football, isn't it? That's what they do. They don't do things by ass. You have to bring it in at the start of a season. But I think for me, what needs to happen in the summer, referees and that need to get together and they need to say, right, we need to iron out these these deficiencies. We need to make this better. And I keep saying it as well. For me, I would like to see an ex-player in that VAR room as well, rather than referee. And I'm honestly, it makes me laugh whenever I watch like Sky Sports News and I see like Dermot Gallagher doing these ref watch things. Absolutely pointless because he always agrees with his referee. I mean, the thing is, he said that the Peter Haring sending off against St Mirren was a sending off, and then it got rescinded. Well, what do you know then, Dermot Gallagher? You were a referee and you still got that wrong. So honestly, I just think referees for me at times don't know the laws of the game, and that's the problem. And again, some of these decisions that the VAR referee makes, I don't know why more referees don't go to the monitor more often. And again, you don't always have to change your mind. If you think your decision's right, then stick with it. And again, Willie Collum stuck with his decision. He stuck with his decision. If you think your decision's right, then stick with it. But these referees, for me, are not using VAR properly. And my hope, it won't happen, I know, but my hope is that next season the VAR will run smoothly with no issues. Everyone's happy. It won't happen because it's Scottish football, but that's my hope.
Gordon McNeil put a comment on Facebook. Thanks for watching, Gordon. Basically, yeah. I mean, I think I spoke to you about this before, Graham. About there should be a time limit on VR because it's getting well out of hand. I mean, I remember, was it the game Celtic get beat against Mirren, the game before the World Cup, the handball? The player was up at the line of the park. I think it was a shy to Celtic, and they broke it back for a penalty. Now that was I would say that was about 2 or 3 minutes after the actual incident. So do you think that there should be a time limit on it?
Yeah, and the thing is, right, it was brought in for clear and obvious decisions. See, if you're taking 4 minutes to make a decision, then that's not clear and obvious. That's not what it's there for. And I just feel that, again, too many games are getting re-refereed. Too many games, and I said this previously as well, for me it feels like referees don't give decisions on the park because they think, well, if I've got it wrong, VAR will get involved. That's not what it's there for. Make a decision, and if it's wrong, if it's clear and obvious, which is what it's there for, then that's when VAR gets involved. But far too often for me, games are getting re-refereed. And the one thing I don't like as well, how many years have you watched football for? I've watched football for nearly, 30, 40 years. I love when a goal gets scored. You're celebrating it. You're loving it. You're thinking, right, we scored a goal. Now, when Hearts score a goal, I don't celebrate because my first thought is VAR's going to rule it out. I hate that. Genuinely, it feels like you're celebrating a goal. You're celebrating a goal twice. So Wednesday night, for example, Lauren Shanklin scores at Ibrox, our first goal this season. I didn't celebrate because I thought VAR will rule us out. 3 or 4 minutes later, I'm still waiting, and then you're celebrating it again. That's pointless. You're ruining football with these decisions. You're now having to score a goal from 25 yards to celebrate a goal, thinking, right, that won't get ruled out. And it's ruining football for me because football's all about scoring goals and celebrating. But that's been taken out of it now because every single goal you're talking about VAR will get involved, so you can't celebrate. And I honestly don't like it. I'm being honest, I don't like it.
I'm sure I read somewhere that they're going to use VR in the Premiership playoff final. So that's going to be pretty interesting.
Well, the one thing I do like, well, maybe I don't like it, but maybe I do, but the fact that however long it takes, they are going to let us hear the discussion between the VAR and the referee. Yeah. I think that's good. At least you get transparency and you know what people are saying. Right now, you've got no idea what's been said because you can't hear it. So I think it actually makes more sense. And I know we talk about this all the time. Managers get sacked on the back of results. Referees don't. They make a bad decision. They might get demoted for a game. But that's not punishment. It's pointless. Referees have got far too much power and they're not allowed to go out and speak because if, managers say things after the game, they heat the moment thing, they come out, maybe slate a referee, they get a 2-game ban or a 3-game ban. But if a referee makes a big decision that's going to cost teams money in terms of promotion or relegation, what happens to them? Nothing. And that's where the issue is.
Okay, so before we go, Graham, a quick word about the Women's Scottish Cup final on Sunday when we're on air. It kicks off at 1:30. Celtic against Rangers. You were saying it's on BBC. And it's good to see the game on BBC. But how good is it to see the game at Hampden, Graham? The very first final at Hampden Park.
Yeah, brilliant. I've got a couple of mates actually going to the game as well, so they'll be looking forward to it. But yeah, I mean, I think both teams will be disappointed to have lost out on the league last week, given the fact that both teams knew that they had a chance of winning it, but Glasgow City sneaked it. But yeah, it's a massive, massive game. Celtic Rangers, the women's game. I don't know what the crowd's like, but going to be a really good atmosphere. So it's just great to see. We speak about it all the time. The women's game's getting promoted. We do it on the show, and it'll be great. Hopefully, it's a good game. Hopefully, nobody headbutts anyone. See what I did there? But yeah, it should be a decent game.
Yeah, no, and that's a brilliant setup, Graham, because at a few weeks' time when the season's over, we've got a special show looking at women's sport. More details coming up on that soon. It's been a busy show, Graham. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks to Mitchell on Mackey's Michael. And thanks to Ross for joining us on the show. We'll be back on Sunday at 3 o'clock. Looking back at the top 6 games and looking forward to the bottom 6 games on Sunday. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you soon.